Welcome to the Maharat 10 Days of Torah. This is day 8. I'm Rabba Kohl Finegold at Congregation Shar HaShamayim in Montreal. As many have already observed, the current crisis in Ukraine maps pretty well onto the Purim story. Think about it. The threat to annihilate an entire culture and absorb it into a larger empire. The power-hungry Putin would be the Haman in this story, of course, and President Zelensky is the Esther, who had been waiting in the wings until the moment for her leadership beckoned, stepping up into the line of fire. Her inner strength and her willingness to lay down her life for the sake of her people is very much what has captured the imagination of the world, as we've watched President Zelensky speak out against tyranny for the freedom and survival of his people. To the American diplomats offering him flights to safety, he said, "I don't need a ride out of here, I need ammunition." And Esther, too, would have been safe, hidden in the palace, but she chose to put herself in harm's way to save her people. There's another character who shows up for only a brief moment, who is really on the sidelines, but ultimately becomes a key figure in the demise of Haman and the prevailing of the Jewish people over evil. It's Charvona, who is simply identified as Echad min hasarisim lifnei hamelech, one of the eunuchs in attendance before the king. And he happens to be present just as Haman's plot is revealed. He inserts himself into the scene, speaking up before the king at just the right moment. And just as the king is getting furious at Haman, it is Charvona who says, Gam hine ha'etz asher asa Haman, here are the gallows that Haman made intended le Mordechai, for Mordechai asher diber tov al hamelech, Mordechai who has shown himself to be an ally of the king. And so Charvona describes these gallows, gavoa chamishim ama, 50 cubits high, and the king responds simply, vayomer hamelech teluhu alav, hang him. And because of the interjection of Charvona, they eliminate Haman. Charvona's name does not appear at all in the Megillah except for that one moment. But he is a large presence in terms of the way we refer back to the Purim story and to the celebration of good over evil. The Shulchan Aruch itself tells us that we have to say, Arur Haman, Baruch Mordechai, cursed is Haman, blessed is Mordechai, Arura Zeresh, Brucha Esther, cursed is Zeresh, Haman's wife, blessed is Esther, cursed are all those who worship idols, blessed are all Israel, and V'tzarich sheyomar, one must also say, V'gam Charvona, Zachor Latov. Charvona too, may he be remembered for good. So Charvona is right up there with Mordechai and Esther, the main players. And we even sing this in the liturgical song at the end of the Megillah in Shoshanat Yaakov. Zachor Latov, may Charvona be remembered for good. Take a moment to consider who else do we mention should be Zachor Latov. Think about your Birkat Hamazon, Harachaman hu yishlach lanu et Eliyahu Hanavi Zachor Latov. May God send us Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Zachor Latov. May he be remembered for good. He is referred to throughout rabbinic literature as Eliyahu Zachor Latov. And according to the Midrash in Esther Rabba, Charvona was none other than Eliyahu Hanavi, appearing just at the right moment. The spirit of Eliyahu is the spirit of protection for the Jewish people. He appears, of course, on Seder night, a night when the Jews were protected from the plagues surrounding them. He appears at a bris to protect the baby from any harm and to ensure the baby's healing. So what is this about? What is Eliyahu? What is Charvona? What makes someone worthy of being Zachor Latov, remembered for good? Charvona was standing on the sidelines. He was observing everything unfolding before him, and when he saw an opportunity to act against the forces of evil, he stepped forward. Who are the Charvonas of the story of this terrible Russian war on Ukraine? There are so many. The anonymous man in the southern port of Berdyansk, who was seen on social media clearing a landmine from a road with his bare hands. This video was viewed more than 10 million times, as have been the videos of many individuals in Ukraine taking up arms to stand up against their oppressors. The mother of an 11-year-old Ukrainian boy who sent her son to travel alone for nearly 700 miles to Slovakia with not much more than his passport and a telephone number of relatives written on his hand. And she stayed behind in Ukraine to care for her elderly mother who couldn't travel. And the strangers who ensured that this boy safely reached his relatives in Slovakia. They too are charvonas. The Israeli medical delegation assisting at the Ukrainian border. In fact, medical and social services from a myriad of countries around the world. And every single person who donates a few dollars to Ukrainian relief, every one of them is a hero. Every one of them is a charvona. Of course, we can turn aside. We can close our eyes. We can say this doesn't affect us directly. Or we can all be charvona, that minor character who becomes a hero for stepping up, for speaking out, for giving himself a role in the larger story. This past Shabbat was Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance, when we remember the sin of Amalek and all the Amaleks of the world, those who use their power to take advantage of those who are vulnerable. And we know that Zachor is not only an injunction to remember, but to act on that memory. We have so much collective memory, too much memory, to stand idly to the side. May we be inspired to rise to the occasion in this moment, to know that when we look back at this period of time, we will be one of those Zachur Latov, that when we remember this moment, we will remember ourselves for good. Purim Sameach.